The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Thank you, Telly Olson. I am back, comfortably zoned with the Zig Zag Man in Alameda, California, right across the bay from San Francisco, across the moat from Oakland. And I push on the doors of life more full every now and again, but I'm most known for having the most interesting guests in podcast history. I'm modest. Today is no exception. Sam, you were with us, Sam Kwasman, and am I pronouncing that right? After all these years, you did a podcast with me on a very strange network. I don't know if you remember, but one of the producers was a Holocaust denier, and it was a strange chapter in my podcast history. But I'd like to welcome you back. If nobody recognizes your name, it's my fault. You are a voice guy, an Emmy winner guy on the Bob Newhart show. You did one of the most memorable segments in the history of television. So it's true, and anybody who wants to go to YouTube can check in on that. And coincidentally, Bob Newhart was one of my comic heroes, a guy I bought albums, the Zippered, Unzipped Mind, Strikes Back. There were two of them. He was incredibly dry and incredibly funny at the same time. And I want to ask you how you met him, how you got along. Tell us something that can enlighten us as to the real Bob Newhart.
Well, I answered an ad in the Variety. Back then there was no internet. There were no cell phones. And they would put an ad in Variety looking for an actor, a comedian, and what have you. And they were looking for a ventriloquist. And I was at the Comedy Store doing a comedy act with a 6-minute bit with a dummy. One of the bits I did was with this dummy. I'd blindfold him and make him guess what people were holding up in the audience. He'd get it wrong, stuff like that.
Right.
So I called them up because at the time, people, the sitcom writers would come into the Comedy Store and steal your jokes, and the next week it'd be on a sitcom. And what they described sounded like what I was doing at the Comedy Store with the dummy, which was the dummy didn't want to be in the act. He wanted to leave the act and go out on his own. So, it was a stereotypical premise for a dummy, but, for me, starting out, it was a great idea. So I called them up, and I got the casting director right away. And I said, sounds like you're doing my act. Sounds like somebody came and saw my act. She goes, really? Well, come on in and show us. It was that simple. So I went in and I was in front of everybody, and I just did my comedy act. And the next thing I know is show up Monday. It was like Thursday or Friday and show up on Monday.
One of those things that your aggression, in this case, rather than wait for the game to come to you, you brought the game to them. And it shows you that it's a numbers game, success in any field, and that you got to get the at-bats. And you did that. Did you have call reluctance for this gig or any other time in your performing history?
What do you mean?
Did you suffer from a call reluctance?
A call reluctance, really. I had an agent, and agents are supposed to, back then, look at a breakdown of projects and submit you. In this case, Variety, the ad was looking for a ventriloquist. Now, I don't remember if the phone number was in there, but I lived around the corner from CBS Studio Center in Studio City, and I could have easily walked over there. So it was within walking distance. So I called them directly. So I don't know if there was it might have been a phone number in the ad. Who knows? At that time, that kind of thing. But normally I would go through my agent, and or somebody would discover me at the Comedy Store and want me to hire me out of that, from doing my comedy act or something like that. I started as a dancer in the movies. I started with Anna White, who discovered me as the voice of Donald Duck for Disney on Parade, and I was the lead dancer in the show with a guy named Patrick Swayze. I think we talked about this once before, and I was doing Donald Duck toys and records when I did the Bob Newhart show. And Bob, very, very real, off stage, on stage, he was the same. And I had a girlfriend at the time who I married later on, and funny thing was, Suzanne Plachette was really sweet and really kind. He gave me a kiss on the cheek, during rehearsal, and for good luck. And I said, well, that's great. I have a girlfriend. He goes, so what? I have a husband. He's right over there. So it was pretty funny.
Was that husband Tom Knox or
No. This was her.
That was later.
Yeah, that was much later. That's much later.
Oh, okay. Well, she was absolutely delightful and very sultry. I might add.
Very sweet.
But what an experience. Anything you can tell us about how Bob Newhart and a guy who you would think was his exact opposite, Don Rickles, became his best friend? Did you see them interact? And what was Rickles doing?
No. I just did the one show, and I just wanted to do a good job. He called me a couple of months ago, and because I thought I was talking to him on Messenger, on Facebook, because he has a Facebook fan page. Well, it turned out to be a clone, and whoever I was talking to wasn't Bob. So I went to the other site and mentioned it, and he called me right away to find out, hey, how are you? What's going on? He considers that episode one of his favorites, and he just turned 93. And on Parade magazine, he mentions it. It's on CNN's History of the Sitcom. He promoted it on there. And my good friend Ed Asner was, I was thrilled because we followed Mary Tyler Moore, and then they showed Bob Newhart. So I'm on CNN.
You say your good friend Ed Asner. Let's dwell on him for a second. He was the head of the union.
Yeah, Screen Actors.
A Screen Actors Guild. And obviously a very liberal guy. What can you tell me that we wouldn't know about Ed Asner? May he rest in peace.
Well, I'll tell you, I met him. I had just finished dancing in the movie Mame, and they hired me to choreograph Guys and Dolls at a temple. And Ed was in the show. And that's how I met Ed. I was choreographing this musical. And Ed called me Twinkle Toes, and I called him Mr. Asner, sir. And every time he won 7 Emmys, he won 7 Emmys. So every time he'd win an Emmy, I'd call him up and go, hey, like there are no other actors, like you're the only one. And he would laugh. He would say, I hope it doesn't price me out of the business. And every single great actor that I have ever met that's won an award, directors, writers, Academy Award winners, they all said this. I hope it doesn't price me out of the business. How about that?
That's very interesting. The fragile ego of entertainers. Let's put it that way.
Well, if the agent demands too much money, they'll just go get me an Ed Asner like. Get me someone like Ed Asner. Get me someone like Bob Newhart. So, but Bob was a great guy to work with. I only did the one episode. I was going to be a semi-regular on the series. We went into negotiations for money, and I distinctly remember the casting director saying, "Hey, we have 12 episodes left. We want to put you in 6." I said, "That's great." And then the next thing I hear, the show ends. It's ended. It's over. So here goes your career. That would have been my big break. Yeah. But I don't blame anybody. Just the course of the show business. You just got to have a little luck. And every single great actor that I worked with, Patrick Swayze to just about everybody, Seinfeld, they all tell you the same thing. I got lucky. I got a break. So, and that's,
But, some might say you got lucky and you got a break by having the opportunity to be in that role and win an Emmy. So everybody's success level and what they consider to be successful is always different. It's very subjective.
It doesn't necessarily come with a lot of money, but that's what happens in showbiz,
But then again, money ruling us as a society is one of the problems. So
very true.
Let's talk about what you're doing today.
Well, let's see. I finished 6 seasons of the Tom and Jerry Show as the baby duck, little quacker.
Oh, here's my mama. I love my mama. Oh, boy.
And I work on Robot Chicken. We did a thing about Kingdom Hearts, which is a Disney game with Mickey, Donald, and Goofy. It was pretty gross. But I just love working with Seth Green. He's great. And I also did the Roadrunner this year for Seth Green's Robot Chicken. And
you can't fool us. There's good money in voiceovers and work like that. Am I correct? So
if you get a series, it's great. Yeah.
Yeah. And I noticed that you have a son to pass this on to.
Yes, I have a son and a daughter.
Oh, wonderful.
None of them are in showbiz. None. Mark,
are you happy for that? Because it's a tough business.
I think you want to pursue what makes you happy. You want to do what you love to do, and that's the bottom line. Go and do what you love. That's the first priority. And if you can't do that, do something that you can tolerate. That then you can go back to what you love to do. Like I have a real estate business. I had a real estate business. I promised my wife I'd get a real job. So because showbiz wasn't steady. And now I'm doing these autograph shows. I just did the Hollywood show a month or two ago. So I'm looking to do the autograph shows because I did Bob Newhart Family Ties, Movies of the Week, Robot Chicken, Tom and Jerry, Donald Duck, all those shows. And Mame with Lucille Ball. I have a picture of me with Lucy. So wow. Yeah, isn't that cool? And I have one with Bob Newhart. But I couldn't even.
You autographed that at the shows? Is that Comic-Con?
Yeah. Comic-Con? Yeah, that kind of thing, yeah. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them. And I have an album called Totally Mini that I did as Donald Duck. It's out of print now. And it was back in 1987. And my friend did Mickey Mouse on it. And we autograph them and we sell them at these autograph shows,
Wow.
So it's, yeah.
Wow.
And it's rare.
You're doing what makes you happy, and you're interacting with your fans. Tell me what that's about for you.
Well, it's nice because they come up to you and they know you from television and stuff, and it's very, very rewarding because, you know, they'll tell you, "Oh God, you made me laugh so hard," and of course that's the best reaction you want. You know, that makes you feel great because that's your goal. The goal is to make them laugh, enjoy, you know, entertain, and that was my favorite response, you know, from the fans. That was wonderful. And I get to see some other guys at the autograph show that I've worked with in the past, and that was nice. And you know, just as things move on, I was hoping to get into a new movie, and that's on hold, so I can't talk about that. But I did do Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, and so that's also another nice thing, you know, that I got to do.
Tell me how being in the real estate business transcends your acting career and vice versa. What do you learn from either or the other that helps you in either or the other?
Well, it's a people business. So, you know, it's like close-up comedy. You know what I mean? You get people in the car, you talk to them, you communicate, you learn to connect. And that's a big deal, to connect, communicate. And that's with real estate. That's with, you know, for the first time in 2.5 years since before COVID. And by the way, I stopped dating during COVID, and I've saved a fortune, you know, more than Geico. You know, that's more than 15%. So, so for the first time in 2.5 years, I got up at a comedy club and I killed. You know, I hadn't been up for 2.5 years, you know, since before COVID. And I got up and boom, I was going to do the Laugh Factory in Vegas, and COVID hit and they canceled it. And that was the end of that.
Well, now you got up before COVID and did this. And
I do stand up.
Interesting. Do you have plans to get back up on the horse?
Yeah, I'm thinking about it after last Saturday when I got up and did this comedy routine and the place went nuts. You know, I mean, I really connected. You know, I had some pretty good jokes, and I talked about how I just had major surgery, and I'm not too funny tonight. I'm not doing too well tonight. I had major surgery. You know, I had my talent removed. And that hit pretty big.
Okay.
You know? Yeah.
That's good. If you're afraid of doctors, like I am, that's major.
Yeah. It's an unexpected twist, you know.
Tell me about your spouse and how you relate to her and how you're a partnership.
Oh, I'm a widower. I'm sorry. I lost my wife many years ago.
I was confused because you said your wife wanted you to go to work.
Years ago. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have brought it up, but yes, I so I write a lot of dating jokes, you know, about, you know, going on J-date, you know, Jewish dating. You know, you want to meet a girl that's not Jewish, you know. They're all there.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Being Jewish, I can relate to that. And having dated once or twice, I can relate to that also.
Yeah. I tell them about a girl that's not Jewish.
You could put Jewish women in an act just as a Jewish comedian can put Jewish men in an act.
Well, I was really good at Jewish jokes. When I first started, I talked about going to a high school that was 90% Jewish. And, you know, at the football games, we had one cheerleader. She had one cheer. Is that over? Can I go home now? I was just starting out. I wrote these silly Jewish jokes about how, you know, most mascots in high schools are like lions and tigers and dragons. And so we had a mascot. We would have herring with a glass of cream soda on the 50-yard line bouncing around, you know.
Well, I wrote a joke about recently wrote a joke about a delicatessen that a Jewish gynecologist bought, and he'd have a pap smear with and I wrote it, but it wasn't all that amusing, it turns out, like many of my jokes. But a pap smear in a delicatessen that combines the two.
Well, when you start out, you just want to start with something, that you think is funny, and you hope it works. Like we had a Jewish athlete. He was a gymnast. I remember a guy got up at the other school, and from another school, he got up and did the Iron Cross. Our guy did the Star of David, So. But now I write better jokes than that. I sometimes you get a little into the blue stuff, like, I'm not feeling too good tonight. I had dinner at this gay sushi bar. Whatever you do, don't order the blowfish. I'm exhausted, jokes like that.
Yes.
Yeah. That'll go over well.
that goes over well, but don't use that in San Francisco. How about that?
No. Well, basically, I'm a very clean act. I really don't do much blue material.
I can tell.
Yeah.
And you are a charming guy, and you have a great attitude. And I hope you'll keep coming back. Don't wait 7 years or whatever it's been. And I just want to wish you a happy Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. Do you feel you have anything to atone?
Yes. My career. So,
and your choice of podcast hosts. How about that?
Well, all right. Well, be sure to watch Robot Chicken and Tom and Jerry. We're on HBO Max. Tom and Jerry in New York. Oh, go to my website, samk3000.com. SAMKAY 3000.com. You can see all my cartoons and my television shows and everything I've been doing.
And I'm going to give you a chance to plug your real estate. Anything about you that separates you from the average realtor?
Yes. I make real estate fun. When you're with me, I give you all the facts, I give you all the figures, and I make it fun. And it's entertaining. It's not a cut and dried. You have to be serious about, you're selling a house. A lot of people, this is their biggest investment. But there is a side to it where you can, you make the people comfortable and they trust you, and communicate. That's the whole key. That's what it's all about. In stand-up, in acting, in anything you do, it's communication, and it's being able to connect with your audience, and that's what I do in real estate. I connect with them. I give them I'm very honest. I tell them the truth, and that's the best. It worked for Bob Newhart, I'll tell you.
Oh boy! I still remember playing the album where the woman bus driver. Mrs. McGillicuddy, I think she is, and she'd end up spinning the passenger to the back each time. A very funny guy. I hope he lives for as long as he wants. How about that?
Yeah.
93.
He's a wonderful guy, and I'm so grateful to him for always, acknowledging that episode. It's given me a real lift, emotionally, personally. I really admire him. And hey, check out his submarine bit.
Oh, cool.
They're starting to submerge, but everybody's on top of the submarine,
You know who he reminded me of in those days was Charlie Manna. Do you remember him at all?
Charlie Manna? No.
Check him out. I hope he's on YouTube. A very funny guy who played characters in his act, and you'll enjoy him. I hope he's still alive. And I hope to be alive to put this on tape. We're old guys.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's a privilege, by the way. It doesn't come to everybody, and it's not a guarantee. So, and you mentioned that you have fun. If it ain't fun, it shouldn't be getting done. And I'm paraphrasing an attorney, but forgive me for that. But it is really true. Got to be fun, and this was fun for me.
Oh, well, thank you very much. It was a lot of fun for me, too. I say how nice it is to be interviewed by you.
Beautiful. I appreciate that, and I'll send you a link to it as soon as it's up on the internet. And thank you, Sam Kwasman. I'm Ralph Tycho, the weak link of all of this. And I'd just like to tell you that I'm appreciative of you listening, and have a very, very happy Yom Kippur. And if you don't observe, you could still have a very, very happy Yom Kippur. It wouldn't kill you.
Don't forget the dinner.
Right. Oh, yeah. Not much to the dinner, but it's better than the Last Supper. Everybody has their stuff. Thank you, Sam, and thank you everybody for listening. Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. Adios and happy trails.
The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned Network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices, and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.